ready, Matt? Okay, we'll reconvene in open session. Public comment. Do we have anyone signed up?
No.
Item 7, update by Director Mr. McCall.
The highlights of the report, it starts on page 9. I would say we had a really big month for social media. Matt was able to get us a lot of new viewers on the Facebook site. Of course, most of what he was communicating about was the winter storm and our response to it. We had some really good comments from some of the commenters to our Facebook site, some of which are included at the bottom of page 14. So I think the public was very appreciative of our efforts, and so that was good to see. Because of the lateness of the meeting, I will suspend my comments there and be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
The only comment I'd have is you might want to emphasize a little more what some of our folks that work out in the ice and snow had to go through. I know we had a lot of outages and that sort of thing, so I think
it's item 9, sir. Item 9, I have a report on that.
Okay. That's later.
Oh, actually, it's item 8, so that's...
Yeah, it's right after. You can go into it.
Here we go. Go ahead with that. Okay, Winter Storm Goliath. We actually started before Christmas with National Weather Service forecast. By the way, this, for those of you that are in the City Council meeting, this is going to be pretty redundant with what I gave there. But so I apologize for that. On Wednesday, December 23rd, the day before the Christmas holidays began, we started getting our fueling our trucks and getting them ready, doing a head count on workers. We also notified Aspen that we wanted them to be available during the storm. Aspen is our tree trimming contractor. Then on Christmas and the day after Christmas, we participated in National Weather Service briefings again. Those were very helpful in kind of tracking the estimated severity of the storm, and it just seemed like it just kept getting worse and worse. On the 26th, we had a final briefing of all the individuals that were going to be manning the EOC, and that was out of the Public Fire Rescue Center. And actually, Andy and Steve Comey were there as well. After that meeting, based on what we heard, Steve Comey called all the distribution staff in, and staff went ahead and established rotating shift schedules because we knew it was going to be a multi-day event. We expected it was going to be a multi-day event. So he called staff in, and we went ahead and set those schedules, which were supposed to start the next day, but because of the high winds that started happening almost immediately Saturday night, we started having some high wind related outages. So some of those workers that were supposed to go home and start their shift the next day never did get home. We had some crews that worked through the night. So we began, Andy called some folks in, and I think he was working on some of this himself. We supplemented the dispatchers by entering outage information into the outage management system. Some of that was done at the office, some of it was done by remote from home. And then some timed messages were recorded in the IVR. We've found that to be a useful tool. IVR is where people call in and get too many calls going through. They get the IVR and they can leave a voice message. And so you can put a message in front of that, which gives customers a little information about what's going on. So that first day, the cause of the outage was really related to wind, tree limbs, a lot of tree limbs, lines slapping together, a few broken poles and cross arms, and then in some cases trees pulled services off the houses. But when that happens, the electricians have to go out and put the meter base back on the house and reconnect all the wiring, and we can go out there and reconnect the service. On Sunday the 27th, the high wind outages continued. Crew rotation initiated, so the folks that work there, we try not to let anybody work more than 16 hours, but I think in some cases that first rotation, some folks worked 20 hours, I heard. So, and then we called Aspen in to work. We started the EOC rotation. I had the first shift, and then Tina Cooper came in mid 6 o'clock that night, so we rotated in and out. Extra dispatchers and call takers. So by Sunday evening, when the snow had really started coming down, we started getting vehicles stuck. And the city vehicles were available and helping us get out of the snow drifts that were there. We also used a hole digger that had a winch on it to pull some of our crews out. I've just got a few photos in here to show you some of the storm. That was maybe a little too dark to see very much of. So the causes of outages on that Sunday the 27th were wind-related issues, lines down, had a lot of lines down, broken and burned up jumpers, meters pulled off house. And then later in the day we started seeing some snow issues. You got some moisture issues. We had a few roof collapses that started showing up. When that happens, the fire department would ask us to send a crew out to disconnect power, which we did. And then probably the worst outage of the event began on Sunday evening, and that had to do with the Lubbock. I call it Lubbock State School. I think it's actually called the Lubbock. I forget what the real name is. Out on North University. We had trucks stuck in main entrance. It took several hours just to get the trucks in there where they could start troubleshooting it. And again, the city equipment helped us get in there. So here's just a couple of shots of some of our crews out there working, and think about guys that will go out and work in 0-degree wind chill, 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, and do this kind of work. It's really takes a special person to do that. Really appreciate the sacrifice, being away from your families, Christmas holiday weekend, and really takes a special set of guys. I will say that we had very good response to people coming in. You always wonder going into a storm event like this how many people are actually going to show up, how many people are going to respond. But we had an excellent response both from these guys and from Andy's folks, from the guys at the production department. So it was really a commendable response from all of our workers. So on Monday, beginning of the week, the winds had started diminishing, which was really good. The wind was beating us up pretty good. But we started seeing more of snow and moisture-related outages. Again, had delays getting equipment in because of the snow drifts. It's probably the biggest thing that was preventing us from getting the lights on any quicker. But so we had call takers, the EOC reps, CSRs, everybody that was critical and mission critical and essential to getting the job done. A lot of them were transported by field service workers who had these four-wheel drive vehicles. I got stuck right across the street from where I live in four-wheel drive Tahoes. I called Andy about 5 o'clock Monday morning and said, "Hey, I need a ride." And so he called the guy up. Come pick me up. And then I had to walk 2 blocks to get up to where he was, and I thought, well, it was only 2 blocks, it won't take me long, but it was rock high snow. That's all it was. So it took me a while. Now I took one step, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get my foot out. The Lubbock State School outage continued. So this was a long event. It took us a while to get that back on. I've got some pictures showing what happened there. We had multiple transformers and switch gear. And this was live front gear. This is older equipment, live front gear that has exposed high voltage parts on it. And so I'll show you what we ran into. Then we had one house fire overnight where we were dispatched to disconnect electricity. There was the view from the Emergency Operations Center. You may not can tell, but that snow that was coming up on the door. They got that brushed out of the way pretty quick, but it was quite an impressive view there about sunup. And there's some of our guys out working. Okay, here's the one I was going to show you from the state school out there. You can see the snow on the exposed, energized parts here. That's not supposed to happen. But and then of course you can see the damage here on some of the conductors. Again, exposed, energized parts. So what we were finding is these cabinets, older cabinets, were not watertight, and so that snow, blowing snow, was getting in those cabinets and contaminating the insulators, and then we had the insulation failure. And so our underground crews, we had a bunch of people out there working on this when we finally got in there, but they would get one device cleaned up, close it back in and energize it, and then it would open up again. So they go down the next one and find snow contamination. So you'll see here in a minute, we're going to recommend a major upgrade to this area, putting new transformers in. In the meantime, they went out there and sealed this with silicone. I want to say putty. What's the word? Silicone. I can't remember. Silicone caulking around the edge of the transformers to kind of seal that up. Hopefully, where if we have another snow event before the end of the winter, we won't have this same recurring event. So on Tuesday, our problems started decreasing. Fewer problems. We still had some moisture-related issues, burned up secondary conductors, transformer problems, and some jumpers. Additional roof collapses. Continued use of field service workers to transport our essential people to the office. And by the way, we had folks working at the business center here even on Monday, and I think they had 7 payments on Monday. Seven customers came in to pay their So we suspended the evening shift on Tuesday because we just weren't getting enough calls to really warrant staying there all night. We were going to be subject to call back at the here's the pole that got broke where the car slipped on the road, and you can see that pole is broken in 2 places, so that's pretty tricky repair there. And then our power plant guys, we had a run during this event as well, and so they had some pretty cold weather operations. I don't know if you can see, but there's winterization equipment. The winterization stuff held pretty good here, even in the snow drifts. We put insulated blankets on there, and all this stuff is insulated with heat strip or heat truss. We're supposed to keep it from freezing up. So on Wednesday, no problems overnight, very minor outages during the day, and so we kind of terminated our EOC activities and kind of returned to normal operations. So observations, our crews were well prepared. Linemen performed very well in extreme conditions, 0-degree wind chill, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Employees in all departments reported for work or served in various roles as needed throughout the event, even though it was a holiday weekend. The city street and other departments were very responsive to our request for assistance in getting our vehicles unstuck, and we could not have done our job had it not been for the city workers pulling this out. We did also receive street and highway closure at the EOC, so I think it was really good for us to be there at the EOC because we could exchange information. They could tell us about building collapses. We could tell them we had trucks stuck and needed help over there. So it was a really good exchange of information there. And the team at the EOC did a good job. I thought a really good job. We used social media quite a bit. Matt stayed busy entering that information on Facebook and doing press releases, and then got our Facebook count up to 20,000. I think we got our Facebook. He's real proud of getting our Facebook count up there pretty high. Lessons learned. This is what I was telling you about earlier. We need a major capital improvement upgrade at Lumberton State School. Preliminary estimate, that's going to be about a $500,000 job. You'll see that when we do the CIP budget. This will be a new project that we put in there. We could have improved our response time, except that we discovered we had 2-wheel drive vehicles in our substation department that limited access to a couple of major feeder outages that we had and slowed us down in our response time. So we'll look at replacing those with 4-wheel drive vehicles later on. And along the same lines, we had some substation breakers and relays that are in need of maintenance or replacement in the near future. So we'll try to identify those and get them scheduled in the CIP as well. Our Massengale generating unit missed a start. We've got a CIP project to put the control system in. We think that will resolve that issue. And then we're going to look at doing some cross-training of our field services personnel in addition to hauling us back and forth to work. We think we can better utilize them during a major event like this. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a snowstorm, snow event like this, but let's say we get into a tornado or a high wind situation where we've got a lot of lines down. We think we can use them to go out and do the preliminary assessment of those lines. Because when you get lines down call, we'll have to go out and investigate it. But a lot of times it'll be TV cable or telephone. So if we can get one cross-train those field service workers to go out and do that, then it would save our line crews from having to go out waste time looking at somebody else's facilities. And then we're going to try to do a better job of expanding and diversifying our social media so that we can give a little more specific information out there. Now, there's some trade-offs there, because the more specific information you give about an area of town that's out, you potentially give the criminal element an idea, hey, this side of town is going to be dark for a while. We're going to do some damage. So we got to be careful about that. But we think we can inform customers better and get user tools a little better than what we did this go around, and train more people on using the ability to load outage information. Any questions on any of that?
No, thanks to Mr. McGinnis, Mr. Comey. Please let all the folks know how much the board and the citizens appreciate what we did for them.
Thank you.
Anything else on the item? If not, we'll go on to, I guess, Amy, there's a
Just a quick comment. I just want to thank the staff of LP&L, and please pass it down to all of your staff. The first 18 hours of the storm, our priority was to keep the grid up, and emergency responders moving. And y'all did a tremendous job. Very much appreciated by everybody that was in the EOC trying to work through that storm. Your staff needs to know how great a job.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be sure to pass that message on.
Number 9 and number 10 are both kind of related today, and the focus of my presentation today is going to be on the resolution that's in number 10. It has to do with the pass-through. So I'll go ahead and go through that presentation, and then if y'all have any additional questions on the financials for the month, there's still a little bit of abbreviated financials provided to you until our audit is complete. We'll be coming back to y'all at the February meeting with the results of our financial audit, which everything is going very smoothly there. So, if you remember in November, I made a presentation to you a little bit more in depth than I'm going to go through today, but just about the purchase power recovery factor, or PPRF as we call it. And just a reminder quickly, that is the rate that all the customers pay that recovers our cost of power that we purchase from Xcel Energy. So over a period of time, the revenues that we generate from that PPRF rate should equal the costs that we incur over that time. It won't match month to month, but over time it should match, and that's what our goal is always to do. We adjust those rates on a seasonal basis at the beginning of October and at the beginning of June. October is the beginning of the non-summer season, which is 8 months, and June 1 is the beginning of the summer season, which is 4 months. Rate stabilization was put into place in December of 2013 and has been a very good tool that we've used to eliminate the volatility. And that's what the seasonal adjustments do, is it keeps those rates flat over each one of those seasons. So we are absorbing the volatility of those purchase power costs and not our customers. The council and the board set aside $3.5 million back in December of 2013. So when our purchase power costs exceed those revenues, we have a cushion to dip into where we don't have to go out and raise rates immediately. So it's been an excellent tool. This looks back to the very beginning of the implementation of rate stabilization and how our purchase power recovery factor has worked. And I have it broken down by season, so this non-summer and summer season. So you can see that first non-summer season, we actually ended that season under-collected $3.9 million. At the end of the first summer season, we were actually cumulatively under-collected $4.9 million. We improved that a little bit over the next non-summer period as we went from 4.9 under-collected to 3.3 million under-collected. And then you can see this summer, we ended that season over-collected, 2.2 million. And then currently through December, we're over-collected about 7.8 million. So you can see a pretty dramatic shift over the last few months. And I mentioned to you in November, I'd be coming back to you with a rate reduction on the pass-through of the purchase power recovery factor to bring that back down to where our costs equal our revenues. The biggest reason for that over-collection has to do with natural gas prices, as our base fuel costs have decreased pretty substantially over this period of time. You can see last fiscal year, the average cost of natural gas was about $3.14 in MMBTU. We're estimating this year the average cost will be about $2.51. We hit a low in December at $1.99, I believe was the number. And so you can see from February, where it actually goes off the chart, February of 14, it was at $6.14, and we've gone all the way down to $1.99. Now projections are that they will be rising, but it doesn't look like they will go above $3 in MMBTU until the end of calendar year 2016. At least that's the current estimates by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So, what I wanted to do is look at the non-summer season last year compared to what we're estimating the non-summer season to be this year, the October through May time frame. So in October through May of 2014 and 15, you can see that energy was about 1.6 billion kilowatt hours. The energy was at about 2.9 cents. So if you multiply the 2.9 cents times the 1.6 billion, it comes up to about $48.5 million of cost for energy. Gas was at $3.29 over that period of time on average. This year we're going to actually see an increase a little bit, which is what our models project of energy usage. Our fuel rate, though, is we're projecting down about 21% from where we were this same time last year. And so we're projecting our energy charges to be about 20% less, about 10.1 million less than the prior year. Gas prices, you can see, are down about 28% from what they're projected to be this year versus where we were last year. So that kind of gives you an idea on the energy side. On the demand side, again, kilowatts that we're expected to use are a little bit of growth there. The demand rate, however, is down about 5%, so we'll see a reduction of about $1.4 million in cost this season compared to last season. And then transmission and other are down, or actually up about $1.6 million in total. Transmission, the driver of that increase, as SPS is increasing their transmission in our area. So overall, though, last season compared to this season, we're down about $9.9 million, or about 10.8%. So because of all of that, obviously this will require a reduction in that pass-through rate. And you can see where we are currently and where we've been over the last couple of years. The total rate is made up of the service availability charge at a little over $7. The energy charge in the wintertime is $25.09. And the pass-through currently, or the PPRF, is at $68.58. So if you're an average user at 1,000 kilowatt hours, your bill would be $100.94. In order to get our pass-through back in order, we're recommending at this time to reduce the pass-through from about 6.8 cents to about 5.6 cents, which you can see is about a little over about a $12 reduction on a monthly basis for the average customer. So that would take that total monthly bill on the average user from $100.94 down to $89.21. So that's about 11.6% reduction from where we've been over the last several months. The way we set this rate was we looked at it on how could we calculate this rate so we can leave that pass-through rate stable through the end of the summer. And I'm not guaranteeing we will be able to do that because natural gas is very volatile, and there are a lot of assumptions in our models that could change. But our desire would be to be able to keep that rate consistent through the end of September of this year. So you can see we would keep the pass-through at $56. The energy piece, though, in the summer, if you recall in the tariff, it does increase about $10 in the summer over the winter. So you would go from $89 now to about $100 beginning on June 1 if we do not change that pass-through rate. If you compare that, though, to last summer, we were paying, the average customer paid about $110 a month. So it's still about a $10 reduction on a monthly basis from what you saw last summer. The next slide, what I wanted to show is basically, on the current rate, the pass-through rate is at 6.8 cents. That'll go through the end of January. At that point in time, we estimate we'll be over-collected $7.3 million. For February through May, at that new 5.6 cent rate, or about that $56 a month portion of the bill, we anticipate we would under-collect about $1.3 million over that time. So, at the end of the winter season, we still expect that we'll be over-collected. We will be back within our cap of what's allowed in the tariff, but in order to keep that rate consistent between the summer and winter, we would actually under-collect that $6 million over those 4 months in the summer. So by the end of the summer, we should be, if all things work perfectly, we would be back to even, where our costs equal our revenues. So that is how we basically arrived at that 5.6 cent rate. We know we'd still be over-collected by the end of the winter season, but by the end of the summer, we should be back to where we would prefer to be and where our tariff requires us to be by the end of that season. Just to recap, this is the total rate or the total cost per customers, their average users over time. You can see how it's before December of 13, it was very volatile. After then, we have very straight lines, so it's very predictable. If you're using the same amount of energy, what you'll be paying. And again, going from the $100.94 a month that we're currently paying to the $89.21, at least through May and hopefully through the end of September. And then just to overlay what Excel customers have been paying up in Amarillo, for the most part, you see we've been below Excel over the majority of time, and really until the last several months, and we have been slightly above them, with the exception of November, where Excel gave a pretty substantial rebate to their customers, which dropped their cost for that 1 month pretty low. But you can see that there's a little bit of a dotted line there. For February, Excel just put out a press release a couple of days ago that they said their average customer in February would be paying $101.52, where our customers will be paying $89.21. So it kind of gives you a comparison there. And if you go back over time, over the last 2 years, our customers have paid about $144 less than an Excel customer using the same amount of energy. And over 3 years, about $240 less than the comparable Excel customer. So that's kind of an overview of what we're proposing to you today and what's in item number 10 in that resolution. And if y'all have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Hey, Mr. Burr, so what we're asking for on item 10 is approval of a resolution providing for downward adjustment of purchase power cost recovery factor, portion of the electric rate tariff schedule. Is that correct?
That is correct. And on page 32 of your agenda is the resolution. And then you should have been inserted in your book is an exhibit that shows where those rates have been and where they're going to be. So that, and I apologize if those weren't provided to you sooner. Chad and I were working all weekend long to get those calculated in where we were comfortable with them. So that is provided to you now, though, for your consideration.
So, can you entertain a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion, not a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to item 11, discuss, deliberate, or take any action regarding compensation and benefits of the General Counsel. Mr. Dunn, you head up our Human Resources Committee.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would make a motion that we adjust the pay for our General Counsel, Mr. Richard Kasner, to a sum of $199,000 per annum.
We have a second. Motion by Mr. Dunn, a second. Steele, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, I have no information that anyone's asked to pull anything on the consent agenda. Is that your understanding?